Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna make over a few items and build a little cottage style vignette. This one's gonna be more of a retro, maybe 50s style, and it was inspired by this little piece that my friend had brought me, and it used to be her mother's, and she wanted to keep it, but she wanted it made over so that it would look better. And she said maybe change this knob on top. Well, it didn't have a base, so I decided to give it a base also. But right now I'm painting this in the color sea glass. And I am painting this with just a regular cheap fan brush. And if you've never tried these, then you really should try, because it really minimizes your brush strokes. And actually I was able to cover this with just one coat. So because she mentioned that changing that knob on top, I had thrifted a little box of different styles of knobs, just single knobs. And most of them look like maybe it came from Hobby Lobby, or but I just bought those, and I found this one that I really thought looked retro, and so I decided my color scheme here. And so I'm going to go with this red and sea glass blue. This is a Dixie Belle color. But, and Dixie Belle also has a color called just Barn Red. And Barn Red was exactly the color red that's on this knob. So that was my color scheme that I'm going to go with here. And a lot of people might not put these two colors together, but I think they look really good. Now, I had this Christmas napkin, and a friend of mine, Frankie, had brought me a whole stack of napkins that she had, and I decided to just cut this little thin polka dot trim off this, and I didn't get that filmed, but I took that, or I Mod Podged that just around the bottom rim of that cover. And now I had found this piece. I think I had thrifted this, and someone had already put this together. And so I decided to bring that color red down to the stand. Now, I didn't paint the actual plate part of this because I felt like it looked okay with this, just like it was. And I didn't want to do anything that would keep it from being food safe. So unless she complains that she wants that painted also, then I'm just going to leave that like it is. And like I said, I carried that red down to the stand part, and I felt like that brought it together enough. Now, this is a transfer from Dixie Belle, and it's called Buds and Branches. And I've been using this one a lot. It has a lot of colorful flowers, but it also has these black and white ones, and I really, really love these. I wish the whole transfer set was these, because I've really used these on a lot of items, but I thought this was just the retro touch that this needed. So I just found a few of these prints, and I'm just kind of putting them around this cake plate top. So I put one, and then about a third of the way I put another one, and then another one. And that way from all sides this will look good. And when I put that knob on, I meant to mention that I used Gorilla Glue, and then I screwed it on also. It had a little nut that came through the back, and so that knob isn't going anywhere. I will say, though, that my friend didn't like the red. She said she's just not a fan of red. And so I'm going to be decoupaging over. I guess I'll have to paint that little polka dot trim there at the bottom. And then I'll have to take this knob off and put another color on. she loved the blue and she loved the white, or the black and white, but she just didn't care for red. So I'll be changing that one out, but not before I used it in this little vignette. But I thought it turned out really cute. She's trying to decide whether she wants it white or some sort of cottage pink. And I couldn't really picture the pink instead of the red. So it's probably going to end up being white. But personally, I like the red myself. But I'm like her. I don't decorate with red either. And now the next item that I'm going to make over is this little baking tray and or baking pan, and I'm just giving it a good cleaning with some alcohol, and then we're going to paint this piece the same color, and one coat covered this one as well. And I think maybe in part because of using the fan brush. Like I said, it minimizes your brush strokes and it's just kind of a lighter touch. So if you haven't tried that, you might try it and see what you think about it. Of course, you can't really trim up next to little detailed areas with it, but for painting something like this, it works perfectly. And I forgot to mention that on that cake plate, I did spray it with a clear coat. I think I used the Rust-Oleum matte finish clear coat. And some people say that you need to seal the chalk paint before you use a transfer on it, but I haven't had any issues with that, and I just wait and clear coat it afterwards. I guess because I know that I'm going to clear coat it in the end to seal that transfer in, I just feel like it's kind of redundant to do it twice, and as long as I don't have a problem with my transfer sticking, then I'll just continue to do it this way. Now, these are some feet that I thrifted quite a while back, and I have several still, so these are my go-to for riser feet. And I'm just gluing these on, and they were just wood riser feet, and I painted these black, and I'm gluing these on before I paint the bottom because I feel like it will stick better. So I glue these on, and then I do go back and paint the bottom with that same sea glass blue, but I'm just really careful when I paint around those feet. And then at some point I decided that I wanted to add some decoupage inside this tiered tray. Now obviously that wouldn't be practical for food, but because this is just going to be a riser, then I feel like there's just going to be decor in it. So I felt like decoupaging was fine for this. And I'm going to decoupage that with using that same napkin that I cut that red polka dot trim from, and it had this recipe. So, and it was the same color of blue that I put on this tray, so I felt like it would look good just decoupaged on the inside. So I'm just using that outer layer of the napkin and decoupaging it onto this, and then once it dries well, then not only will I seal that blue with the Rust-Oleum matte finish, but I'll also seal this as well. And I really like how this one turned out. I didn't bother adding any red to this one because I can still fit it together in this vignette, but then the red is not going to limit it if someone just has this color and not the red. But I do love the way these colors work together, and I think they display well. But now the next item that I'm going to make over is this little washboard that I thrifted, and it's cute, but that art I feel like doesn't go with much. So I'm just cleaning this well, and generally when I paint an item, I don't do a lot of taping off, but if I get some on that metal with those ridges in it, there's no way I can scrape that off, so I'm kind of forced to tape these off here. But I'm going to paint this the same color of blue that I put on the other. So this is also the Dixie Belle sea glass, and so I just take both these sides off and paint both sides with the color sea glass. Now, on this side that had the art, I didn't bother with painting that part. I just wasn't careful in painting the other up next to it, because I'm going to go back over that area and also use the buttercream on it. And one coat covered this. Actually, one coat covered both of these well. And when I do the white there on the inside, just as I did with the tray, I only put one coat. It could have used another coat. But since I'm going over this with decoupage, then I felt like it didn't really matter if it didn't have completely full coverage. And then that's all that I do to this one, and I think that one turned out cute. So then the next item that I'm going to do is a tiered tray. And my plan here was to use this little set. And I know you guys see these thrifted or in thrift stores all the time. And I always buy them because they make really neat little tiered trays. My plan here was to make a 3-tiered tray, but then I decided that these are too small to do 3 tiers. It just made it look kind of funny being that tall. So I'm painting these 2 coats of the color buttercream, and I wait to paint the bottom until I get those feet on the bottom, because I'm going to be using those same feet on the largest one of these risers. And like I said, I feel like it glues better if you glue it before you paint it. Now, to go between each tier, I just cut some spindles from an old bed and just cut it the length that I wanted it, and then glued that together. And I even went down the top one with a screw into it to hold it better, and then I went through the bottom with a screw. So after I glued this together, then I took a screw up the middle of the bottom and then a screw down the top, and now this tray will stay together well. And I want to keep this one more neutral also, so I'm just adding some of these flowers from the transfer from Dixie Belle called Buds and Branches. And there's a lot of colorful flowers on these, but there's also some of these black and whites. And honestly wish that the whole set was black and white, because I really love the look of those, and I use those a lot more than the colored ones. The ones with color are really pretty as well, but I just don't use a lot of color, so these work out better for me. And so I just kind of place these on each tier, just kind of spacing them randomly where you can see from every direction, you can see a transfer on both the top and the bottom. And then I'll also go back over this when it's finished and spray it with the matte finish Rust-Oleum. And then that's all that I do to this one. And again, I don't know that I would want to put food in this, but for just decor items, it works just fine. Now, instead of these spindles, if you didn't want to bother cutting spindles, if you don't have a saw for that, then you could always use just a narrow candlestick in between, and that would work well also. And then you could just use E6000 and not worry with having to screw them together, just glue them. So I think that one turned out cute. And there is the whole vignette together, and I just love how the red and sea glass blue work together. And then most of these items on their own, you wouldn't have to use the red and blue together, except for this cake plate, which, as I said before, I'm going to redo that anyway. But I think that this little vignette worked out really well together. I think this has kind of a 50s style, which my kitchen is not. But, you know, a lot of cottages are decorated like this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.